Well guys, we have made it. This is the final week of the transfer window. Deadline day is coming up in a few days' time. We've got so much to go through today in terms of done deals, all the rumours which are really exploding right now, with championship clubs looking to get some last minute deals over the line over these next couple of days. As always, I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. How are you feeling in terms of how your squad's shaping up going into the end of the window now? Do you think you're in a strong position, or do you still think your club is in need of a few more signings? Drop a like if you do go on to enjoy, but without any further ado, let's just jump in. Starting out with some done deals, we've seen Burnley defender Dara O'Shea joining Ipswich Town in a deal worth around 15 million. That could rise another 3 million with some more add-ons included in that one as well. We obviously know that Dara O'Shea has had plenty of Premier League admirers throughout the summer, the likes of Wolves and Brentford also being heavily linked in recent weeks, but in the end it was Ipswich who have coughed up the money to get this deal over the line. Ipswich making some really savvy moves throughout this window. I think they've looked into the championship market on quite a few occasions and have picked up a few gems. Burnley have got a decent fee for themselves there though, but I'm sure Ipswich will be happy with that deal. Aldakel is the 17th departure we've seen from Burnley this summer, as his move to Stuttgart has been confirmed now. We've seen Belgian midfielder Pierre Duomo signing for Watford on a permanent basis. The 20-year-old midfielder is coming over from Royal Antwerp. He spent the last few seasons out on loan, but has now joined Watford on a permanent basis on a long-term contract at a decent age where Watford can look to develop him, and their scouting team has obviously seen a potential gem there. Tawanda Chirawa has joined Derby on loan for the season from Wolves. Derby definitely in need of adding a little bit more creativity to their side, and this signing should look to do that. The 20-year-old Wolves star can play in a number of different positions, whether that's as a creative midfielder, someone off the left or right flank. Still looks fairly raw with only a handful of senior appearances behind him, but definitely got potential to be a bit of a live wire for Derby this season. We've seen Luton Town midfielder Alan Campbell joining Charlton Athletic on a season-long loan. That one had been rumoured for quite a while, but Campbell will get his reunion with Nathan Jones there. Watford defender Wesley Hope has joined Saudi Arabian side Al Shabab on a permanent basis. This one had been rumoured for quite a while, but has been completed over the last couple of days. I think Watford will just be glad to have the clarity on this situation now so they can move on as a club. Definitely losing a very good player, arguably one of their most consistent performers from last season, but I think every Watford fan has known that this exit has been on the cards all summer. West Ham youngster Freddie Potts has joined Portsmouth on loan for the season. He's coming off the back of a good loan spell in League One last season with Wickham. The 20-year-old will give John Mousinho another option to go for in midfield, which I think will be a tidy pickup for the season on loan. Last week we saw Will Fish signing for Cardiff on a permanent basis. That was one of the rumours we mentioned in one of last time's video, a couple of videos ago. It's since been confirmed. We've seen Sheffield Wednesday signing Shay Charles on a season-long loan from Southampton. I'm interested to see how he gets on there at Wednesday, obviously. Signed for big money in at Southampton, a bit of a bit part player in that Russell Martin side last season that won promotion from the Championship. Still quite raw, doesn't have that many first-team starts under his belt at Championship level, but I think could be a nice option there for Wednesday. Southampton will get their player to develop under a good coach like Danny Roll. I think that one could suit all parties. Middlesbrough have signed Brazilian fullback Neto Borges, who comes over from Clermont-Foot in France. The 27-year-old made 28 starts for the French side in Ligue 1 last season. Honestly, have to admit, I'm amazed that Blues have managed to get this deal over the line for Ben Davies, signing the Rangers defender on a season-long loan. I know that Birmingham aren't a Championship club anymore, but had to touch on this one because I really thought there'd be a few Championship clubs in for Ben Davies, especially when Rangers were happy to send him out on loan for this season. I know that his time in Scotland hasn't exactly gone to plan given the money that Rangers spent on Davies to get him out of Liverpool, but his track record in the Championship previously with Preston North End speaks for itself. But with how ambitious Blues have been this summer, they've been able to attract a lot of these high profile and, let's face it, Championship quality players. But those are some of the done deals which have gone through in the Championship over these past couple of days. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into the rumours. We'll start out with the Gustavo news because this is arguably the biggest transfer story going around the Championship right now. We've recently seen Leeds United having a £13 million bid rejected for the Blades midfielder, but they're not giving up on their pursuit of the midfielder that easily. There have been some reports coming out of the Netherlands claiming that Hamer would be open to a move to Ellen Road Road, and with Sheffield United reportedly valuing him at around about £18 million. It is worth stressing, I think Sheffield United originally paid around £15 million for Hamer, so Leeds' opening offer of £13 million I think was always likely to be rejected. They were never going to sell him for a loss. He is under contract at Bramall Lane until 2027, and so the Blades still have a decent amount of bargaining power here when dictating that transfer price, which, going off the latest reports, is supposedly around 18 million. Listen, I think he's one of the best players in the Championship. I'm amazed there's not been more Premier League interest in him up until this point, but Leeds could push for that deal, and I mean, what a midfield they'd have if they added Hamer into the equation. In terms of Sheffield United, they are keen on strengthening their own midfield options between now and the end of the window, and they're now being strongly linked with a move for Bournemouth's Philip Billing, who I think would be an excellent option for any club in the Championship. Reports recently came out claiming that Billing would be on the move between now and the end of the transfer window, and understandably so. Plenty of Championship clubs have since thrown their hats into the ring. You've also got the likes of Burnley and Leeds United who are supposedly interested in this deal. And another deal in the works for the Blades right now is Mikey Johnston, who appears to be on his way to Sheffield United. Going off the latest reports, it seems as if they have a deal in place of around £2.5 million for the Celtic winger, and I think that would be an excellent addition at Bramall Lane. He was obviously really eye-catching during that loan spell with West Brom in the second half of last season. Gives the Blades a bit of a different option, and on a permanent basis especially, for just £2.5 million, I think that's a really nice deal. On last time's video, we did discuss Leicester forward Tom Cannon and how the Foxes are prepared to sell Cannon this summer on a permanent basis. It's previously been believed that they'd only be willing to sanction a loan deal, but seems as if they're willing to cut their ties with Cannon altogether, and since that point we've had Sunderland making a bid in the region of £5 million for the Leicester City forward. Now, a whole cluster of other Championship clubs are still interested in this deal. Sheffield United and Stoke have been quite prevalently linked with him all summer, also seen Norwich linked with him as well. For a club like Sunderland, I think someone like Cannon would be a really nice addition. He's at a good age where they can continue to develop him, but as previously shown from his loan spell with Preston previously, he knows how to hit the back of the net at this level. West Brom aren't backing down in their interest in Preston striker Will Keane, who's obviously on target at the weekend, scored Preston's first goal of the season against Luton. Chipped in with some important goals for North End last season as well, and the Baggies are obviously interested. They've upped their bid to around 850k. Now, this does leave Preston in an interesting position. Keane is 31 years old and in the final year of his contract with Preston. 850k would also represent a sizable profit considering what we got Keane for. We got him from Wigan for next to nothing. But the guy does score goals at this level. It's thought that for Preston to sanction this deal, we would need a replacement lined up ourselves. Not a like-for-like replacement for Will Keane, but Preston are being linked with a move for Josh Bowler. This one would be quite interesting with Bowler's links to Blackpool previously. Listen, he's had a few tough years, I think it's fair to say, obviously. Really put himself back on the map with his stint at Blackpool, but then since making that move to Forest and the subsequent loan spells out that he's had since, he's not really been able to find that same sort of shine he had at Blackpool previously. Along with Preston, Hull City are also supposedly interested. They're still looking to bolster up their wide ranks, it would seem. For Preston, I suppose this would indicate a bit of a switch in formation where they're going to look to be a lot more adaptable under Paul Heckingbottom, aren't going to be wedded to this same formation that we've been so persistent to play under Ryan Lowe. Obviously, we've got Ockles now, who's a wide option on that left-hand side. Bowler would be someone for the right-hand side. If you get him back to the level he was at just a couple of years ago, I do think there's a very good Championship player in there. West Brom are another club who are keen to bolster their wide departments. They've made an inquiry for Lorient winger Theo Lebris. The 21-year-old wide man was part of the Lorient side that was relegated from Ligue 1 last season, and he currently has a market value of around about 1.7 million. I think we all knew it was only going to be a matter of time before there was some Premier League interest in Tom Fellows, a young English talent with a hell of a lot of potential. He ticks a lot of boxes for what Premier League clubs are after. Reportedly, Southampton are considering a £10 million offer for the 21-year-old, although West Brom themselves are said to value him at much higher than that. He was obviously a real standout performer in West Brom's game over the weekend against Stoke City, where he provided 2 assists in that game. We've got a lot of Burnley rumours to go through right now with the amount of players being linked with the club and being linked away from the club. We'll start with the departures first of all. We did briefly briefly touch on Luca Koso last time, but we've had a bit of an update on this one since. Wolves are reportedly ready to up their offer to around 25 million for the Burnley winger, who does seem to be keen on the move going off the latest reports. But Burnley obviously are keen to keep hold of the player, which makes things difficult. Zaki Amumu is someone who appears to be on his way out of Burnley. It's been reported that he will travel to Lisbon tomorrow to go ahead and complete his move to Benfica. That one's been on the cards for these last few days. We did touch on that one briefly in last time's video. But as of recording, that transfer does seem to be on the cards. Mike Trezor only officially joined Burnley on a permanent basis this summer, but he could be on his way out of the club in the final week of the transfer window. It's now thought that talks are underway between Nice and Burnley over a potential loan move for the winger, which would involve an option to buy for the French club. Josh Brownhill is another Burnley player attracting plenty of interest going into these final days of the window, with a fair few Premier League clubs eyeing up the Burnley man right now. You've got the likes of Wolves, Leicester, Nottingham Forest and Brentford, who have all been linked in recent days. Brownhill, I thought, would have been one of the safer bets to stick around at Burnley this summer, and listen, that could still be the case, but when Premier League clubs do come calling, especially when you're a player like Brownhill, who is in the final year of his contract with Burnley right now, it can be very tempting. There was also an offer from Trabzonspor for Brownhill, which Burnley have rejected, which was worth around 3.5 million. However, it's not all bad news for Burnley, as they are working on a number of additions at this stage, with Hannibal from Manchester United set to sign for the Clarets. According to Fabrizio Romano, that overall package is worth around £9 million. Obviously, Hannibal is a player who we have seen in the Championship previously from his loan stint with Birmingham, quite an energetic all-action midfielder. Jaden Anthony is another player that is being worked on by Burnley. They'd sign the Bournemouth winger on loan and would then have the obligation to purchase him for around 10 million if they were promoted back to the Premier League. Obviously, Anthony is a player who has worked with Scott Parker previously from their time at Bournemouth together, so is a player who he already knows well. Someone who could probably do with consistent first team football in the Championship to properly get his career back on track. He was really good in that promotion season for Bournemouth, but hasn't quite hit those same levels since. And Jeremy Sarmiento is another player who is expected to sign for Burnley on a loan deal, obviously. Someone who we saw quite a bit of in the Championship last season. With all the players that Burnley are losing right now, I think that'll be a tidy pickup. It's not just Burnley who are losing players at the moment, though. There could be a fair few outgoings at Luton between now and the end of the window. As of recording, Ipswich Town are in advanced talks to sign Chidozie Ogbene from Luton, with that deal believed to be worth in the region of £8 million. Definitely would be a shame to see Ogbene leaving Luton, but move straight back to the Premier League makes sense from his point of view. Luton are getting a decent fee here and flipping a player for a quick profit. Another Luton player being eyed up by Ipswich Town is Tahith Chong. I believe Kieran McKenna would have worked with Chong previously from his time at the United Academy. I'm sure that's where some of this link has come from. Obviously, Chong is quite an integral part of that Luton Town system, and to lose him at this stage, yeah, that would be quite the blow, and it would take quite the replacement to come in. But as shown this summer, Ipswich do have the money to splash, and if they want to take him, they could very well put in a lucrative offer. And another potential outgoing from Luton Town could be Thomas Kaminski. Reportedly, Leicester City have lodged a bid for the Luton Town shot stopper. It's been rumoured that the overall package could be worth in excess of £10 million. From a Leicester perspective, I mean, there's definitely other areas of that squad that they need to strengthen before signing another goalkeeper before the end of the transfer window. But it's an interesting transfer link nonetheless. Kaminski, despite Luton's relegation in the Premier League last season, did well from a shot-stopping perspective. He's clearly a good goalkeeper when faced with a high volume of shots, which Leicester will expect to face this season. Bournemouth are on the verge of signing Chelsea goalkeeper Kepa Arrizabalaga, which should then free up Mark Travers to head back to the Championship, with a fair few clubs interested at this point. We previously spoke about Burnley's interest in the shot stopper, but Blackburn Rovers are also in contention for this one as well, with them also looking to strengthen their goalkeeping department. Now, Burnley being in for Travers would depend on what was to happen with James Trafford and whether or not he heads back to the Premier League. From Blackburn's perspective, this is obviously a position that they're looking to strengthen, and I think would be a really good option for them. I really like Travers from his time in the Championship with Bournemouth previously. I think he'd be a good option for any club at this level. And could we see Todd Cantwell returning to the Championship? up. It was only January 2023 that he made the move to Rangers, but reportedly he's unsettled in Scotland right now and wants to move back to England, and Blackburn Rovers are the club probably most prevalently being linked with the creative midfielder right now. It's thought that initial negotiations have taken place, both for a potential permanent or loan deal for Cantwell. Listen, say what you like about his attitude or anything like that. For the championship level, there is a very good player in there, there's no doubt about that. Casey McAtee is definitely someone to watch in the final few days of the window. Definitely looks like someone who could leave Leicester on loan in these next few days. He has been linked with a whole host of championship clubs throughout the summer, probably most prevalently those links to Cardiff, which have been there for quite some time. Could we see Danny Ings back in the championship? It's thought that the West Ham forward could be released from his contract with West Ham, which would obviously allow him to move elsewhere on a free transfer. The 32-year-old is by no means at the peak of his powers right now, but if that does go through, you'd expect a whole host of championship clubs to be interested. QPR forward Lynden Dykes is set to undergo a medical with Birmingham City ahead of his move to the League One outfit. Believe that move overall is worth around about 1.5 million. It's an interesting one. I'd be really interested to get some QPR fans' perspectives on this one down below. Dykes has always been a bit of a polarising figure, probably within the QPR fan base. Never the most prolific, but to be fair, I have seen him have a fair few decent games against North End. Even when he's not been on the score sheet, he does offer something else in the final third. Once again, for Blues in League One, dropping down the level, I think that'll be a good signing for them. But guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. There's so much going on around the Championship right now. Apologies if I did miss off any rumours in today's video. There's just so much going on right now. But anything else that you've seen, drop it down below. Other than that though, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.